So this entire episode during the week of the Origin Immersion camp revolves around just a single day on the Wednesday, about halfway through the camp, because it was a big day in a lot of ways. Wednesday was the day that they were going to bring all the people who had come out to enjoy the camp out to their facilities to see how the stuff is actually made in the factories that they own in America by the actual workers who make it. So in the morning, I headed out with Brian Littlefield and Jack Arnold to check out the first of the 3 Origin locations, the supplement warehouse. So it is Wednesday morning. We're on the way to the Origin factories, 3 of them. And we got Brian here leading the crew.
What's going on?
Man, the myth legend, and Jack Arnold himself.
What's happening, y'all?
You're going to be cooking up a dinner tonight, right?
That is correct. It's one of the greatest opportunities I've been given thanks to Brian and Pete and the crew. We're going to fire up a lot of cow steaks, Wagyu strips, fillets. We're going to make Jocko a tomahawk. We're going to light the big green egg up. And it's going to be an amazing barbecue with some amazing people. There's no better way to do a Wednesday in the world.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be an epic day. Now, I have been watching the Origin build this thing basically since they bought it on their stories on Instagram for months leading up to this. So it was interesting getting to see it in person and knowing all of the history of the purchase of the warehouse, the retrofitting, the paint jobs, all of the moving in and out, the building of the shelves, really like this grassroots creation that now is a fully functioning warehouse. Not only do they fulfill all of their supplements from there, but they're even starting to build their own fleet, starting with the very first semi that they have bought that they jokingly named Joctimus Prime. Is that the new truck there?
Oh yeah, it's Joctimus.
Joctimus Prime. The sheer size of this thing on the inside is quite impressive, and you can tell that there's a lot of growth left to expand inside those walls. We got the full tour, walking around, checking out the offices, the boardroom, and then obviously onto the floor to see the people that were actively packaging to ship shipments out. And we got to hear right from the horse's mouth, being Pete Roberts, the owner, Jocko Willink, the other owner, and Brian Littlefield, the COO of Supplements and Nutrition.
So the number one demographic of people, active consumer of energy drinks is active military, hands down. Outnumbers every other demographic, like not even close. I want to say it's like 80% of active military consume energy drinks daily.
What you got there, man? What you got there?
I almost spat it all over. I don't want to get on your camera though.
Just take them with you. Just pick up this whole pallet.
What's the safest amount of cans per day you can drink?
I think it's 4.
Yeah.
I've maxed out at like 5 a couple times, but 4. And I've been you know, we're gonna make some drinks that don't have caffeine in them, you know, that you can just drink all day, because I would drink them all day if they didn't have caffeine in them, because, you know, obviously look, I barely need caffeine, so 400 milligrams of caffeine, I'm like a full-on psychopath, which we're trying to stay away from. But yeah, and it's weird too, like this whole thing, I think Andy was just asking me, he's like, hey, do you think any of this stuff was gonna happen? I was like, well, not really. But and then you're like, oh, you hear me talk about like, hey, you gotta be humble, right? You probably heard me say that. Hey, you gotta be humble. Oh, so now I got my big name everywhere, which is totally backwards. So how does that happen? I'll tell you exactly how it happened. I was on Tim Ferriss's podcast, and at the end of his podcast, he's like, yeah, we should get some dinner. It's been a while. And I said, I just was like making a caveman type joke. And I said, yeah, Jocko hungry. And I was just joking around. And then I talked to Echo, and I said, hey man, we're gonna do a podcast. And he said, well, what do you want to call it? And I was like, Jocko Podcast. Sort of like that same vibe in my brain, in my small little caveman brain. I was like, oh, Jocko Podcast, that's the next thing. And then I started making that tea. And then it's like, oh, what are you gonna call the tea? Jocko Tea. And here we are, freaking 3 years later, and there's no humility in having your name and head everywhere. So I'm sorry. Yeah, like when we first started making these, I was the guy that was being like, yeah, this is good. So since I never drank soda and very little sugar, when we first made Citrus Cycle, the first version, it tasted like as sweet as anything could possibly taste to me. And then everyone else is like, okay. So we've been getting sweeter, you know, to satisfy people's taste better. So JP, he's my brother, and like he's always wanting to do the best, and so I guess they sent him his first couple flavors, and look, it takes a while, but I remember JP was kind of like he didn't like the first iteration of the flavors, and I could hear him on the phone. He's like, I go, oh, how's that flavor? He's like, it's like he didn't want to tell me. I was like, does it suck? And he's like, kind of. I was like, okay, you know, just say it. Yeah, because it takes between probably 4 and 15 iterations of flavors before someone says, yeah, good to go. It's a process.
Any other questions?
The malt bars, when are those coming?
It's one of those things, you know, we don't talk about it much online, but I've gotten that question probably the most I've gotten out of anything this week has been malt bars. And what it really boiled down to was we created this incredible product with this very advanced formula, and we had this little micro space to manufacture it, and we would have launched the product and it would have been sold out all the time. We'd have literally been that company that's like a little trickles in and it's gone and it's gone and it's gone. We didn't want to do that. So we went to every contract manufacturer in North America trying to get them to take our formula and make the bar, and none of them could do it because they didn't want to tool up for what we had created. So now we've gone back to the drawing board. We're actually working with a partner manufacturer in Pennsylvania, and we hope to have the bar ready for Q1 of 2022.
After the tour had ended and everybody got their pictures outside, we packed up and headed to the second facility. This factory had had other purposes before it's gotten to the point that it's at now, but primarily now it's used as a boot factory. One of the newer and quite impressive lines of products that Origin creates from scratch are work boots. This is something that was really dear to Pete's heart. He's always been interested in the workwear side of apparel and textiles, and they put a ton of effort into creating a whole atmosphere and system of production for these boots.
Getting the backdoor tour, anything Origin related, like all the boots, all the jeans, all the gis, rash guards, everything gets fulfilled from over here.
Right from the original materials all the way to the finished product. It really is art in action. There was a little question and answer period where Pete told a bit of the story of the factory, as well as some of the ideas that they have moving forward.
This is all obviously American tanned leather. We used to do it all in Maine, and then COVID shut down our tannery that's been around for 100 years. They just couldn't sustain. We actually talked about, Jocko and I talked about purchasing the tannery, working a deal with the Tasman family. It was just too much to bite off. So we ended up pivoting and using another tannery named Seidel Leather. They were big Jocko fans. They heard us talking about issues. They called and said, we want to support y'all. So they tan all of our leather here. I think this is bison and steer leather basically. So it's all tanned. The tannage is all to our spec, depending on what we're looking for. We get like 4 to 5 pairs of boots per hide. The cost to make a pair of boots is $145. That's how much it costs to make a pair of boots. That's what it costs us. So it's not a cheap process. When you're doing research and development, it's tough because you get a lot of seconds trying to figure this shit out because it hasn't been done in 20, 30 years, right? So it took quite an investment. Folks who were here maybe 2 years ago heard me say, who wants to guess how much our first pair of boots cost to make? $350. More. $500,000. The first pair of boots cost $500,000. Some good boots. To figure out how to make it, to get just some old machinery installed, between the process of giving Henry a picture of what I wanted to do, and him saying go. By the time we got that first pair, it was about $500,000. So it's been a massive investment, but really incredible for the community, incredible for obviously our customer base, and really bringing a piece of our very rich heritage back to the area. Footwear in the U.S. We believe we'll be able to drive our costs down, economies of scale as we grow, as we're able to make more, we onboard more machinery. So right now it's a little bit bespoke as far as what we're producing. We're producing about 40 pairs a day out of this facility, with a goal of multiplying that times 10. We'll be making at our new plant all of our t-shirts, joggers, grappling shorts.
Bro, why's it gotta be like
board shorts. I've been telling Jocko for 3 years, bro, we gotta make shorts, and he's like, no man, we can't yet. That's a lie. He's been bugging me for 4 years. Will you make some fucking shorts? Every week, will you make some shorts? We're finally gonna make shorts.
Dude, he's up in Maine where they only wear shorts like 1 month a year.
Exactly.
I'm in California where we wear them 12 months a year.
Every time we get on the floor, bro, can I get some shorts?
Yeah.
So
he's making jeans, he's making work pants, he's making sweatshirts. I'm like, bro!
So anyways, everything gets cut right here. We'll just walk around, it all gets cut. We had this machine actually built in Italy. It reads the leather, we place the patterns on, then we can walk away from the machine and it cuts out all the parts, and then it projects which size, so as we pull them, we can bin them, and we can send into production, yes. Yeah, we do with the excess. Yeah, we make like this right here. This is a small wallet. Yep. This is like a card wallet. We make a bifold. We make little tags and stuff, but
Tags on the pants and stuff.
yeah, we make all the tags on the jeans. That comes out of excess, all that stuff. So, there's still manufacturing. There is still a little bit of waste. You never could, obviously, trying to improve. The level of waste is like, you're never going to hit like 100% efficiency. But if you compare that to ordering something in Pakistan or China, the waste, like the rivers are dead. Bangladesh, the rivers are dead. So then you put that thing on the ocean, you bring that over on a barge. It's so green, it's so like efficient the way we're doing things, especially how everything's on the East Coast right now. Cotton grown in the Tennessee Delta region, Georgia. It's spun, it's woven, everything kind of right here within our local supply chain. So I think it's the future. I think it's the future. And for manufacturing in America, it's going to have to be done this way in micro factories, not big million square foot mills with tons of overhead. We were able to pivot really quick during coronavirus before anybody knew what it was, and everybody's like, I gotta get a face covering or mask. We pivoted over a weekend. We were like the first ones in America to pivot. Was it Amazon or Google who ordered?
Google.
Google, yeah. So like Google called us, boom, like they found us. They're like, can we order 40,000 face coverings? And so it was a really quick pivot, and being nimble allows us to just rip people's faces off. So everybody's watching us coming. We've had Adidas, we've had Bad Boy, we've had Levi's try to get us to make product for them. So right now, we're saying no to everybody. Made in America with Origin means Origin. So we're pretty blessed and pretty stoked to be able to do what we're doing. We've got a phenomenal team up here in Maine. That we have a total of 210 employees. 110 of those are here in Maine. Andy, how long does it take to make a pair of boots?
2.7 hours.
What are we going to get it to?
2.2.
2.7 hours. We'll get it to 2.2. So it's a lot of steps. It's a lot of work. Let's go over here. This is stitching. They stitch a three-dimensional product. This is called an upper. This upper gets molded to where it looks like this. This is a hybrid construction, which means we're going to stitch out the toe, and we're going to last the heel inside underneath, and it creates a natural joint, so when you put the boots on, they kind of already feel broken in. It's heavy, there's a plastic form inside, that is called a last. So this is an art, not a science. You're, like hopefully consistent in stitching, but then you're trying to find the center line, how much product you pull over, to make sure that at the end, when you match the product up, everything is consistent and symmetrical. Then it comes over here into the bottoming department. It gets stitched down, the toe. We stitch all the way inside the boot, and then we put a heel on, and then we scour it down so it's all seamless. This is all handwork, so it's art. It's all art. Like you're literally like making it, like sanding and making it look perfect like this.
Well, once we ramp up all day, I don't think there's a higher priority than us making the boots and the gear that our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines take overseas to fight in. 100%, we're on board. We got to get there. And the Guardians. Don't want to forget the Guardians.
Another question? Yes.
It's another one. If you heard Pete making fun, or Pete joking about the fact that I'm always talking about making shorts, that's another thing I've been saying since day one. I was like, hey, cool, wearing boots, I get it. I'm not wearing boots around San Diego to go to the market. I'm wearing sneakers, and you can't skateboard in boots either.
But you can.
So, yeah, you can, but it's not official. So, we're on the sneaker thing, and the interesting thing about footwear is, well, I was scared of boots. When he said he wanted to go boots, I'm like, bro, like this seems like a hard thing because people's feet are different. You got to make all these different sizes. Look, you make t-shirts, it's like large, extra large, medium, small. You're good. Shoes and boots, size 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It gets crazy. And you got to produce all those things. So I was hesitant about boots, but he was like, hey, boots are actually in some ways easier to make than a gi. And so I said, okay, man, you're the pro, allegedly. He's like, no, I promise we can do it. So we did it. Sneakers, same thing.
Yeah.
It's all stuff that we can do. It's stuff that we can do in America. He's already located some of the machinery that we're going to need. We have some of the machinery, so we're getting there. Personally, I don't know if I can say this, but Vans, Vans like I'm wearing right now, I love Vans. They used to be a great American-made company, made in Southern California. And I was a huge supporter of them. And right now, they're in a sweatshop in China. So I'm wearing them, but it hurts. We won't be doing that for long.
Yeah, sneakers are actually a lot easier to make than what we're making right now. They're much more simple product. You last it, and you slap a cup sole on, and you're good to go. So, and you can stitch a lot of it on a computer, whereas this is a lot of handwork. So.
Jocko also spoke up and talked a little bit about the idea of manufacturing in the US and why it's so important to Origin as an ethos.
We want to make stuff in America. We know it's going to be hard, but we're going to fight. We're going to get it done. And when people hear that, especially people that have been at risk of losing their jobs. I mean, if we didn't buy this factory in North Carolina, what's going to happen to it? You know, what's going to happen to it? Maybe not next year, but what's going to happen to it in 5 years, in 7 years? I can tell you what's going to happen to it. It goes overseas. Because they can pay people freaking ridiculously low amounts of money to work. And the corporations that are in charge of it, what are they looking at more than anything else? What are they looking at? They're looking at the bottom line 100%. And they're also looking at the bottom line short term. They don't care about the country, they don't care about the community, they don't care about people. And that attitude right there is put them where they're at. So they ship everything overseas, and then they start telling Americans that Americans can't do this. That's actually what they would say. When people started looking at this, they're like, oh, Americans can't do this. Well, they're wrong. And you're seeing it right here. And we're gonna bring it all back. So that's what's up.
We're going from being like a small brand with kind of like, can we do this, to like, we can do this, and now it's time to tell the world.
Once that part of the tour was over, we packed back up into the truck and headed over to the original Origin factory in Farmington, Maine itself. The whole area of Maine in general, but also Farmington in particular, has a really cool, authentic, old world style to it. It has this feel of brick buildings and just history that has been built through, around, and into for decades upon decades upon decades. I was probably the most excited to check out this factory firsthand for a few reasons. The first is that it was the original factory of Origin. All of their production started from here and then expanded outwards.
Upstairs area, which is crazy. Now when you see like how everything's grown, like it's impressive. Yeah. And so they used to have half machines. Boots were being done out of over in that corner.
Holy shit, in the same place.
Yeah. So they were literally doing everything. The supplements used to be up there as well.
This was everything.
This was everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've seen probably the most footage inside that building of any of the factories combined. The upper floor of the factory is a lot of the sewing where that gets done, but the lower level of the factory is super interesting. They call it the bunker. It has a spiral staircase that you walk down and a different one on the other side that you walk up. And in the basement, that's where a lot of the heavy machinery is housed. All of the looms and weaving equipment that turns the original fibers that they source from American farmers into their own proprietary weaves that they use for their geese and their rations.
This is one of the looms that they actually like restored and rebuilt so that they could like weave everything and do all their own custom weaves. Right there, that plastic with the holes punched in it, that's what tells the machine what weave to do. So this will bring it all in here. It's just incredible, man.
But the one thing I was most excited for, particularly in this factory out of all three of them, was there was a certain product that was being made for the very first time that I needed to get on tape. that was my own collaboration rash guard with Origin. This is something that I had been in the works for over 6 months getting ready to produce. And it lined up just perfectly that by the time I got to the Origin camp, they were going to hold off on the very first unit until I got there so I could see the very first sample of my own rash guard that I helped create and design be made right in front of me.
This is like 6 months of design on my part. Really? Oh, baby. Let's see how it's done. How's it made?
It was so cool to watch this thing happen in action in real time. And the hands that put these things together are so fluid and just skillful. You can tell that there's some real talent in those walls.
Hey Pete, I need to get a blind react.
You got your sample, huh?
I did.
That's no gi jiu-jitsu. Looks awesome, man.
Oh, look at that.
Now the line of apparel that I didn't even know was in the works, that I got to see firsthand in some of the prototyping at the factory, is a whole workwear line that I was really excited to see because I've come from the welding industry. And so this is the type of stuff that I used to wear all the time at work. Heavy duty coveralls, overalls, work pants, and stuff that you're used to seeing from brands like Carhartt being redesigned and re-envisioned by Origin.
For our workwear line that we're coming out with at the end of this year. So I don't know if you followed the Origin story, but Pete designed this pocket that, okay, there you go.
The right zipper.
That's the right one right there. Cool. So yeah, what it's meant to do is you're supposed to be able to, get sawdust in there and then be able to flush it out. It's a big problem where you have tools going in and out of your pockets and yeah. See, we need you doing this. Yeah, so hidden back pockets in the back yoke. So you can't even really tell that they're pockets. Pretty cool. Yeah, there's some cool features on here. All the I think there's gonna be like pen pockets in here, cell phone holder pocket. This is like a gusseted pocket just for more space in there. So it's pretty innovative.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is this where the Americans make their manufacturing, Jocko?
That's what we're doing. Amazing.
The original factory, eh?
This is it. This is it. When we first joined forces, this was it. And we've got a lot more going on now. I think we had 8 employees when Pete and I shook hands. So now we've got over 200. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Now that the factory tours were all over and I had seen it all, we had gone through all of the production areas, there's actually a storefront that's just around the corner from that original factory in downtown Farmington, Maine. So I walked from the factory, through the offices, onto the sidewalk and around the corner to walk to the storefront where consumers can actually see these products themselves and buy them directly from the company and mere feet away from where they're produced. Part of the story of what Origin was trying to do was to bring back the textile industry that already existed in Maine that had died out since the 70s and 80s. A lot of manufacturing in general got shipped overseas during that time to more cheap manufacturing in third world nations. And because that happened, a lot of the talent and knowledge in the American factory worker just died out over the preceding generations where there was nobody left to do the work. So a lot of the people that are doing the work now for Origin are actually related to the generation of the people that used to do the work in America. And it really is a grassroots effort to bring back the factory environment and the do-it-yourself attitude of the American spirit. I can tell you after seeing all 3 of these factories firsthand, the American dream is alive and well in Maine, and Origin is absolutely at the head of the pack, leading it back. The next part of Wednesday that was important for me particularly was, since it was only a few days before I had to leave back for Canada, part of the requirements to hit a flight internationally right now is getting a negative PCR test for COVID. Knowing that was the case and that it had to be within 72 hours of when you took the test to when you were flying, I made sure to set an alarm for Wednesday so that I would head out after the tours, and I had looked into where I could get this done relatively locally. We ended up having to travel about 45 minutes away from Farmington to a Walgreens where I was going to get the test done. I had called the Walgreens already before I even left for the trip to ask them how much it's going to cost, what the time latency is, all of the pertinent questions you would want to know for this. And they assured me that not only is it readily available, that I can get it as a Canadian citizen, but also that it was free. I had to pay over $150 in Canada to get it, just to get across the border to the States. So I was happy to hear that there's a free version on the other side that I could get to return back to Canada. There was a bit of a rush involved in getting me over there because between the factory tours and the big plans for the evening that were coming up, we only had about the exact amount of time that it took to go 45 minutes for the test, maybe a couple minutes when we're there, and then 45 minutes back in time for those plans. If you'll remember from the previous episode, there was a VIP dinner that was happening on Wednesday night, being hosted at the Travis Mills Foundation, and food cooked in person by Jack Arnold. So we were going about as fast as we could through the main highways to get to this test location so I could get this thing done and make sure that I was ready for my flight. So we get to the Walgreens, I mask up and walk in and talk to the pharmacist, who tells me that they don't even test inside the building, and that I had to go back out to my car, drive around to a drive-through on the other side of the building, where they would literally send me the test in a vacuum tube and then instruct me how to test myself for COVID. Now, I'm no professional when it comes to nose swabs. I'd had it done in the past, but I'd never done it to myself. So I was a little bit thrown off, to be honest, that they would trust me to test myself. But this is the procedure, I guess, so I got the tube in hand, pulled the swab out, and did my best nurse impression, and did exactly what they told me to. My own test. I get to do my own PCR test. Never wanted to be a nurse, but here we are, 2021. Got to do it yourself, DIY COVID test coming up. Alright. I've seen how far they get them up on these UFC tests. I ain't looking forward to it. So, one nostril. One, two, three, 4, 5. That's what I'm supposed to do, and then the other nostril. Oh Lord, that's in my brain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Wow, I'm tearing up. That was fun. Good times. Supposed to put her down, break it off, seal it up. Oh, we're tested, boys. Let's go. Little did I know that this was actually a very pivotal moment of my trip down to the US, and that the choice to go to this particular place to get my test done would really end up screwing me in the future. But we'll get to that one on another episode. That's it. That's how we test for COVID these days. So that was an adventure. We got the test done. Thanks to Luke for driving.
Results anywhere between 2 and 7 days. It will show up in your email under WS Health.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, we got her done. That's the COVID test. Thanks to Luke for the drive. We got a boogie now to get back for the super special, super secret VIP dinner with all the big dogs. So with the test done, we boogied over as fast as we could to the Travis Mills Foundation. This facility is incredible. There's an entire grounds that has been dedicated to this foundation for the sole purpose of trying to help mentally and physically rehabilitate soldiers who had seen action, and especially ones who had taken serious physical trauma. And it's led by, of course, Travis Mills, who himself is a war vet who had lost literally every limb he had in Afghanistan. Travis would be there to welcome us all in, and was both the host and the guest of honor for all the VIPs of Origin. Travis himself actually has his own signature Discipline Go flavor called Whoop-Ass Watermelon. And to be honest, I think it's my favorite. By the time we had got there, Jack Arnold had already been cooking for over an hour in preparation, and the smell was incredible. Outside on the back patio, we had the Big Green Egg, his barbecue set up already grilling. I've had some good meat in the past at some fancy restaurants, but this meal blew it all away. That man can really cook.
This piece is falling off. It really needs to be fell off. It needs to get devoured by you, sir.
Once everybody had had their fill and the dinner portion was winding down, Travis came out and took the floor to both thank everybody for coming, for the support through Origin that he'd received, and also just a bit of the history and the future of what the Travis Mills Foundation was going to do.
Heard about the foundation, didn't know anything about it. This is not my house, it's not where I live, but welcome either way. But what we do here is bring out combat and service-connected injured veterans and show them how to do things adaptively. So that's a fancy way of saying, if you got messed up in Afghanistan, Iraq, whatever, or in service, maybe in a motorcycle accident or car accident, and you're disabled with a physical injury, we bring you and your families out here and show them that you can do things adaptively. You can make a difference in your home life, and you don't have to live life on the sidelines. So we have activities ranging from horseback riding, archery. We have a cottage over there across the way on the lake, so we have tubing, snowboarding as well, that we take people out and do that. And down there is tennis. We just do anything and everything we can to let them know, don't live life on the sidelines and be active, right? And live out the slogan of never give up, never quit. I go around, I travel speaking, and I get a lot of people asking me about post-traumatic stress, and I always had the answer of like, well, hey, here's our foundations that do that. We don't do that. We just help the families out. Well, we've changed that up. We have a post-traumatic stress program now called Warrior Path. It's out of Boulder Crest Foundation in Virginia. They're one of the top in the nation. It's an 18-month course, but the first week is here, and it's free. So if you have any loved ones going through post-traumatic stress, first responder or combat veteran, send them our way. We get a $600,000 grant every year to do this, and it goes really well. So this was all built on donations and people believing in championing our mission forward. We have 8 families per week. Each of these rooms is its own little suite. Upstairs is the 2 bigger ones, and then on the sides are like built for smaller families of 2 people to 4 people. And we just try to give back. So in case you guys are wondering, like, where the heck are we at? This is where we're at. Travis Mills Foundation. Elizabeth Arden built it in 1929. She was a cosmetic pioneer, and she still roams around every now and then. So if you guys see anybody like in white in the windows, don't worry about it. We know she's here. I'm not joking. We have staff that won't go in there in the morning until someone else gets here because they hear people getting like furniture drugged across the floor and stuff like that. But don't worry, you're fine. She's nice. She took one guy over, but And so he was not that great of a guy, so it doesn't matter. But that's basically what we do. Like Kelsey and I don't take a dime. We started this off the idea we should give back from Walter Reed and all the love we were shown. Because obviously I was blown up. Maybe it wasn't obvious, but I was blown up in Afghanistan. To be honest, actually, I was 4 sharks, 1 bite. But Bethany Hamilton, that surfer, beat me to the punch. You know, because she had a hand to punch with. So I photoshopped a bunch of military pictures and then took people's money for this place. So it's worked out really well for me. But yeah, that's really about it. So I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed. No, how you guys can donate? If you visit TravisMillsFoundation.org, you can donate. If you guys are up here, you wanted to come up and volunteer, we have over 1,000 people that signed up to volunteer for us. This place doesn't happen without the volunteers. We're very fortunate there. And we run a pretty skeleton crew, because we want to stretch every single dollar. Kelsey and I don't take a dime from this. This is not about us getting paid. It's about giving back to these veterans and their families and doing the right thing. So my website's the best place to go for that. Please follow me on social media. Make me more famous than I am, because I'm not that famous, but I want to be. So Jocko, if you wanted to tag me a few times more, that's great. We have a $6 million building going in over there in the grass. We're breaking ground September 11th. We have a big fundraiser going on for that, and it's going to be able to help us operate instead of just 26 weeks out of the year, up to 42 weeks out of the year with families. So pretty fired up about that. That's how this all got started. Joe's brother was a huge influencer for my foundation, and I was able to meet Pete through that. And then Jocko I met at Fox News. I was like, who's this guy without a neck? It turns out it was Jocko. It was really cool.
I'm like, who's this guy without arms and legs? Boom. Throw me those softballs, bro. I got it.
Because you got arms and legs. I get it. I'm like, but anyway, no, so that's all I got. I'm sorry. I'm a real sweaty mess. My body overheats real bad. That's it.
All right, one more time, Travis. Thanks, Travis.
It's people like him and it's companies like Origin that really gives me hope for the future of America. The strength and the self-reliance that they put on display daily is a real inspiration, and I hope is something that will grow over time, because in the times that we're in now, there's nothing more that we all need than a belief in yourself and the strength of conviction to carry it through.